Back in the early 2000s, when the internet still had that fresh magic and Facebook was barely a rumor, I was a 19-year-old community college student with nothing more dangerous on my mind than midterms and microwave dinners. Life was simple, chaotic in small ways, but simple. I had just moved in with my girlfriend, Lucy, partly out of love, but mostly because rent in Southern California was starting to feel like a second tuition. We split groceries, argued over whose turn it was to do the dishes, and occasionally hosted friends for impromptu game nights in our tiny, dimly lit apartment. One night, Lucy told me she invited a friend from her sociology class over to play Settlers of Catan. I barely looked up from the microwave. "Cool," I said. "Anyone I know?" Turned out, yeah, it was Sarah. Sarah and I had gone to high school together. We weren't close, not even in the same social circle, but there had always been a weird mutual respect there. She had that sharp kind of confidence that either intimidated or impressed you. The kind of girl who wasn't afraid to challenge a teacher mid-lecture and somehow not come off annoying. She showed up that night with a six-pack of ginger beer and a smile that said she still remembered me. We laughed, caught up, played board games until midnight with a couple of friends from Lucy's classes. It was fun, easy. From that night on, Sarah became a regular. Game nights, horror movie marathons, even just stopping by for Lucy's over-seasoned spaghetti and venting about professors who thought pop quiz was still a cute idea in college. But then she brought him, Jay, the boyfriend. Jay had the energy of a silent storm. The first time Sarah brought him over, I thought he might have just been shy. He barely said hello, didn't shake anyone's hand, and sat like a shadow in the corner while the rest of us played a chaotic game of Uno. Lucy tried making conversation with him. Something light, something friendly, but he gave her one-word answers, barely audible over the background music. I shrugged it off. Some people just don't vibe with new groups. Not everyone needs to be the life of the party. But then he came over again, and it was the same thing every time. Silent, sulking, watching. It wasn't just that he was quiet. It was the way he seemed bothered by our joy, like he resented the laughter, like every joke we cracked was some personal attack on his very existence. It got to the point where no one wanted him there. Not because we hated him, but because he made everything feel heavy. But we kept inviting him, for Sarah's sake. Eventually, though, he stopped showing up, made excuses, said he was busy, fine by us. The air felt lighter without him around, and Sarah? She was just as fun and bright as ever. She'd show up with cookies or weird indie movies on DVD, and her smile always reached her eyes. Then one evening, everything changed. Lucy's phone buzzed just as we were finishing up dinner. Pasta again. She looked at the screen, frowned, then immediately answered. It was Sarah, and she was crying. 15 minutes later, Sarah was sitting on our couch, wrapped in Lucy's hoodie, mascara streaked across her cheeks, hands trembling as she clutched a mug of chamomile tea. He said I was cheating, she whispered, voice cracking. He just lost it. Sarah's voice trembled with each word, like the trauma hadn't even finished settling in her bones yet. He said I was spending too much time here, she whispered. She paused, biting her lip so hard I thought she might draw blood. Messing around behind his back. With you. With Lucy. Both of you. She laughed, but it was the kind of laugh that only comes when your heart's been dropped from a height. That desperate, shaky kind of sound people make when they're trying to convince themselves it wasn't as bad as it felt. But it was. Then came the part that made Lucy go pale. Sarah said she tried to leave. Try to walk past him, grab her things, and just go. But Jay stepped in front of her, blocked her path. And when she tried again, he shoved me, she said. The words fell like lead. My fingers curled into fists before I even realized it. He didn't hit me, she added quickly, like she was defending him. I tripped over the coffee table. It was stupid, just an accident. I fell kind of hard and Lucy interrupted, gently. You show me the bruise, Sarah. That wasn't a stumble. Sarah's eyes dropped. That was when I knew. It didn't matter how she tried to explain it, to rationalize it, to soften the edges. I'd seen this story before. How someone could be convinced to doubt their own pain when it comes from someone they love. But me? I wasn't going to doubt anything. Sarah was our friend. And Jay had laid his hands on her. Bruise or no bruise, accident or not. He pushed her. He hurt her. And in that moment, something shifted inside me. I'm not a fighter. Never been one. I've always been the big guy with a calm temper, the one who'd rather defuse a situation than throw punches. But that night, I wanted to hurt him. I wanted him to feel what he made her feel, powerless, small, and cornered. But violence wasn't my style. So instead, I chose something colder, smarter, and far more devastating. I barely slept that night. While Lucy held Sarah in the spare room, soothing her to sleep with soft reassurances and warm blankets, I lay awake on the couch, staring at the ceiling fan and plotting. My heart was pounding, not with rage that had cooled, but with purpose. See, what Jay didn't know was that I worked in the administration building at her junior college. Not glamorous work, just a student job to help with tuition. But it came with access, and in the right hands, access was power. I could see anyone's class schedule, their fees, their enrollment status. It wasn't the kind of access you were supposed to abuse, but Jay had crossed a line that went deeper than any policy. So the next morning, I got up early, ironed my shirt like it was any other shift, and walked into the administration office with a calm face and a storm inside my chest. I pulled up Jay's student records, and there he was. Name, student ID, full class schedule. Then I checked the calendar. It was the last day to add or drop classes without penalty. Perfect. I walked to the back room, where the dusty enrollment phones were still set up for students to make class changes. Online registration wasn't fully built out yet, so everything had to be done by voice commands through the internal phone system. No cameras, no logins, no record of who made the call, just a voice and a student ID number. So I picked up the handset, dialed in, entered Jay's info, and dropped every single class he was enrolled in. Every last one. Then, just for good measure, I went through the course catalog and added him into as many classes with extra fees as I could find. Art classes with supply costs, science labs, even a few non-credit workshops that still charged administrative fees. His tuition balance? About to balloon. And because of college policy, if you owed the school money, you couldn't access your transcript, couldn't register, couldn't transfer, couldn't do anything. But that wasn't even the best part. Jay was a foreign student, and if he dropped below a certain number of credits, he could lose his visa. I hung up the phone slowly. Cold, methodical, satisfied. Some people would call that harsh, but I wasn't trying to make a point. I was trying to make sure he never laid a hand on anyone again, especially not someone like Sarah. The beauty of it all was how clean it felt. No yelling, no confrontation, no fists flying or scenes made in a hallway. Just one quiet call that unraveled everything Jay had built here. From the outside, it would look like a bureaucratic hiccup, a paperwork error, nothing to trace, no fingerprints left behind. And I didn't say a word. Not to Lucy, not to Sarah, not to anyone. Because revenge this perfect doesn't need an audience. 2 days later, Sarah mentioned she was dreading going to her Tuesday English class, the one she shared with Jay. Her eyes were still tired, but brighter. The fear hadn't fully left her body, but she was trying to get back to normal. I just hope he stays away, she said, chewing nervously on the drawstring of her hoodie. I don't want to have to see him again. Lucy hugged her. If he shows up, I'll go with you and make a scene. I swear. I smiled but said nothing, because I already knew what was coming. That Tuesday afternoon, Sarah came back with wide eyes and a buzzing voice. Oh my God, she whispered. You won't believe what happened in class today. She sat on our couch, practically vibrating. So I walk in, he's there, sitting in the back, sulking like always. But then another student walks in, and there aren't enough chairs. The professor looks confused. She starts counting heads. Then she pulls out the official roster and starts calling names. She pauses for dramatic effect. Even though she doesn't know, she's speaking to the architect of the chaos. She gets to Jay's name and just skips it. Wait, what? Lucy asks, leaning in. Sarah nods. She reads off everyone's names except his. He raises his hand and says, I'm in this class, and she just stares at him and says, you're not on the roster. Jay started to argue, according to her. Said there must have been a mistake. He had to be in the class. But the professor wasn't having it. If your name's not here, I can't count you as enrolled. Sarah leaned back, a strange mixture of shock and relief softening her features. I never saw him again, and neither did we. The next few weeks passed like a breeze through open windows. No more awkward silences at game night. No more invisible tension every time the doorbell rang. Sarah smiled more, laughed louder. It was like watching someone come back to life. But me? I was haunted by curiosity. Not guilt. Never guilt. Jay had earned what happened. Every dropped class, every blocked transcript, every course fee piling up on his now useless student portal. But still, I want to know how far the fallout went. So one slow Thursday morning, alone in the admin office, I took a little peek. I logged in and pulled up Jay's records again. The art classes with supply fees? Gone. The lab-based courses? All removed. His schedule had been wiped clean. No active enrollment. Just an outstanding balance that would choke any chance of returning. He was a ghost in the system now. Still technically a student, but with no classes, no credits, no future here. And for an international student, that meant more than just a delay in graduation. It meant risking everything. Visas weren't just permission slips, they were lifelines. If Jay dropped below a full-time course load, even for accidental reasons, immigration services could flag him, revoke his student status, maybe even deport him. I didn't know if that's what happened, but I sure as hell hoped it did. Lucy and I eventually drifted apart. Life pulled us in different directions, different schools, different jobs, different futures. We broke up on a quiet Sunday with no drama, just an understanding that it was time. Sarah stayed around a little longer. We'd chat occasionally, a few more movie nights. Then she found a new place, and we lost touch. But sometimes, late at night, I think about Jay, about how one arrogant, violent push destroyed his entire academic future. And he'll never even know how. He'll blame the system. He'll curse the administration. But he'll never suspect that the revenge came not from a punch in the face, but from someone who watched him shove a girl, saw the bruise he left behind, and erased him like he never mattered. Final reflection, justice in silence. Sometimes people ask, wasn't that too harsh? Maybe, maybe not. He wasn't arrested. He wasn't beaten. He wasn't even publicly humiliated. But he was stopped. And more importantly, Sarah was safe. Because when someone lays their hands on a woman in anger, they don't deserve a second chance. They deserve to vanish. And I made sure he did. If you think that was satisfying, hit that like button and tell us in the comments. What's the coldest revenge you've ever seen pulled off? And don't forget to subscribe. We've got more real stories of justice, karma, and unforgettable payback coming your way. Stay sharp, stay strong, and never let a villain walk away clean.